Hi, thanks. Fat bikes were designed in Alaska so that the guys could continue riding through the winter. They were originally designed there to ride in the snow and in New Mexico sands. Nowadays, they've gone full mainstream, and you can get a full sus, full carbon mountain bike for about 100,000 Rand quite happily. Fat bike, sorry. But most importantly, fat bikes are just the most fun you can have on a bike. I bought my first bike before the Invitational training camp in Alaska, and where I met 4 guys on this training camp, and we decided we would do the race the following year together no matter what. We learned how to survive and to ride at minus 40 degrees in the snow. And so our training began in probably one of the world's hottest and most humid races in Costa Rica, which is really clever, I guess. At home, I trained in my local preemie restaurant fridge on a trainer, and I also rode a lot of 12 to 15-hour night rides through the night to train for sleep deprivation and for just long hours in the saddle, dodging snakes and things. The months leading up to the race, the Iditarod, consisted of really amazing emails backwards and forwards between us all, worrying about kit, what we should take, what we shouldn't take, and also about the crazy conditions that Alaska was having at that time. They were saying that the snow was melting, there was no snow, and they were talking about bears coming out from hibernation early and very grumpy. So we were going to take a gun with. Food was debated to no end, and my main food was chocolate and cheese, which is not bad, really. The ITI 350 and 1100 mile race races up through Alaska along the iconic Iditarod Trail race. This is where a bunch of mushers went in 1925 to take up a serum for a diphtheria outbreak up there. Bill and Kathy Merchant formulated this race along the lines of this quote: "Sometimes when you offer too much support, you cheat the true adventurer out of why they are on the trail. They come to race, to confront, and hopefully overcome whatever is thrown their way. To solve problems for them diminishes that experience." That's fine until you get to Alaska. Finally, we were at the start of the race, all of us looking clean and well brushed and raring to go. And within about 2 kilometers of the start, we were lost. Riding through Alaska is just amazing. It's silent, silent, silent. There's no insects, there's no birds, and you just hear the tires on the snow. It's fantastic. The skies are huge, and the scenery just changes all the time. Riding at night, especially when you get the Northern Lights, is just unbelievable. And we stopped and toasted the Northern Lights with a couple of whiskey dinkies that we'd been given at the start, which just seemed like the right thing to do. The temperature on the first night, was the coldest. It got down to about minus 33 degrees. And 2 of the guys were already in a bit of trouble, one with dehydration and one with a cropped knee where he fell. So we left them at checkpoint 1, hoping that they would collect us or catch up with us at a later stage. Unfortunately, due to various other things, taking wrong turns, dodgy knees, dehydration, whatever, the whole group started to splinter up quite badly. So we tried to stay together, but it wasn't working at that stage. I teamed up with a guy from the US, a guy called Patrick, who's a big adventure guy over there. And we headed out on perfect trails in lovely weather, both of us feeling strong and enjoying the fantastic conditions and just cycling on these fat bikes through Alaska. We went on to a place called Rainy Pass, and then from there we were going to head out through the Alaskan Range, which is kind of like the most dangerous part of the shorter race version, because you just head straight up into the Alaskan Range. So quite cleverly I decided and tried to persuade Patrick that we should do it at night. We managed to go through, and it was fine for most of the time. We did have a bit of the trail blowing out with wind, but we did get through. However, I hit a bit of soft snow, went over my handlebars, and had a slight break in my neck, which I didn't know at the time. I continued through the night, leaving Patrick to bivvy, because now I couldn't ride my bike, and I couldn't hold my head up. And I was going through this place called the Great Burn, which is the most miserable place on earth. And there was no snow, so I took some selfies because I thought I was going to die there. I got through. The worst place, though, were these frozen lakes. There was no snow on the top, and you could see the water beneath you. I had to hold my head up with one hand and steer with the other. And if I never do any part of the race again, it'll be those. It was awful. And finally, about 25 miles out of Nikolai, this is the kind of state I was in, and my mates finally caught me. And again, although they showed huge concern and helped me, they also took lots of selfies and made lots of jokes about my fat face and my eyes closing up. The thing about the Iditarod is that there is no support on the race. The only support is from fellow racers. And here you can see they just bunked down, helped me out, and basically put me to bed that night. They rigged up a thing where they strapped my neck back to my camelback and rolled up a towel underneath my chin so I could ride again. I couldn't move the one side of my arm and body, but we were riding and we were happy we were back in a group. So this is going through into Nikolai, and again, the checkpoint here is at somebody's perfect own house, and the food and the hospitality was great. It was so good that we were back together. We said we're going to stick together until the end, no matter what. So we headed up the Big River, a very original name for a big river, which was another 40 miles push through to McGrath, which we arrived there at the finish at 2:30 in the morning in just under 5 days. It's also a private home. The finish of the race is a bit strange in that you arrive at all sorts of times of the day and night, and somebody may sort of say to you, well done, as they're lying on the floor in their sleeping bag, but that's about it. There's no fanfare, there's no medals, nothing. You do get awakened in the morning by the guy who owns the house, and he's just making stacks and stacks and stacks of pancakes, so that's pretty amazing. These endurance races and adventures for me are all about making lifelong friends around the world. You meet them, you race together, and you help each other out. So we'd all got together at the end, which is what we'd planned, all in various different states of disrepair, but we got there in the end. Thank you.